Hi friends, welcome to Raising Lifelong Learners. I'm your host, Colleen Kessler, and this is the podcast where I encourage you to trust yourself and your differently wired kiddos as you help cultivate their curiosity, encourage them to discover the world around them, embrace who they are wired to be, all while helping them discover their passions, interests, and raise them to become the amazing adults they're meant to be. Hey, welcome back. This is episode 278. I'm so glad you're here. Today we're talking all about celebrating wins with our kids and just making it part of our family's culture to celebrate those wins, big and small, and notice when our kids are doing amazing things to help them be more motivated and more resilient and just feel better about themselves and grow socially, emotionally, and academically in ways that you never imagined. It's going to be a great episode. Lots of practical tips you can implement today. A special thanks to CTC Math, our season sponsor. We really appreciate their support. Check them out at ctcmath.com. You'll hear a little bit more about them during this episode. But for now, pop those earbuds in, go for a walk, take a break, and let's get on with today's episode. Hey there. All right, this is going to be a great episode. We are talking all about something that might seem super small on the surface, but can make a big, huge impact on our kiddos' lives, especially if they're neurodivergent in any way. If you've got a kiddo who is gifted, twice exceptional, struggles with anxiety, ADHD, a learning challenge of any kind, this is going to help make a difference with very little extra work on your part. I'm talking about celebrating wins. Now, big wins, small wins, everything in between. When we celebrate our kids' wins, when we make it part of our culture in our home, we help them see that everything they do has an impact and has the potential for celebration. Celebrating progress, not just perfection, helps your kiddo build confidence, it builds their resilience, it increases their motivation, and builds a sense of connection with you. We've talked about connection on the podcast many times, and we're going to talk about connection again in the coming weeks. But today's episode, we're going to dive into the social, emotional, and academic benefits that come along when we celebrate our kiddos' wins. I'll share real-life examples and practical ways for you to make celebration a part of your homeschool and your home culture. Are you ready? All right, let's dive in. So let's start with just some simple truth. Your kiddo is doing hard things every single day. Whether they are navigating the ups and downs of anxiety, managing their ADHD impulses, masking their autistic traits so that they can fit in better, or struggling to find themselves within whatever their diagnosis is, juggling to make multiple learning differences work with the subjects that they're trying to learn alongside their big, beautiful gifts. We've got kids who are twice exceptional and they are struggling while also excelling in other areas. Remember, they're asynchronous. They are working harder than most people realize just to function in a world that wasn't necessarily built for their brains. And that's hard work. I used to say for a long time, especially when Logan was struggling early on with her anxiety, that she was the bravest person that I knew. She got up every morning, she pushed herself through, she tackled big, scary things and went to bed and got up the next day to do it all over again. And like I talk about in chapter 7 of the Homeschool Advantage, our job isn't to fix our kids. It's to see who they are, support them, where they are, who they are, how they are, and help them build a strong foundation and the confidence to live in their own truth and be the people that they're meant to be and be the best versions of the people that they're meant to be. Celebrating wins is one of the simplest and most powerful ways we can do this. When we pause and we take time to say, I see you, I see your effort, you're working so hard, I am so proud of you. we're telling our kids that they're making progress, they're growing, and that what they do matters, and they do too. And those messages, they become part of our kiddos' inner voice, their inner brain workings, and it helps them continue to push on, continue to work hard, and continue to reach for the goals that they've set for themselves because they know you've got their back. They know you're there to support them, and they feel more confident going forward. So let's talk about some of the social and the emotional benefits to celebrating our kids' wins. Neurodivergent kiddos, especially gifted and twice exceptional ones, are often very aware of what's hard for them. They see where they struggle, they notice how they're different, they understand that their brains work in a different way than others around them. They can see that they're processing things in a different way. Sometimes they're a little confused by it, especially when they're young. They can't understand why others just don't see the world like they do. They often get frustrated, and that self-awareness can lead to feelings of inadequacy. It can lead to anxiety. It can lead to perfectionism. It can even lead to their shutdown if we're not careful and cognizant of what they're going through. When we focus on celebration and we bring celebration into our everyday, we help rewire that. We help them rewire their brains so they're looking for the positive and the good and not just hyperfixating on the negative. Each time you acknowledge something that your kiddos have done well, whether it's staying focused for 10 minutes, using words instead of yelling or pushing or shoving, finishing a tough math problem, you're strengthening their emotional resilience, you're strengthening their emotional intelligence, and you're helping them feel safe, seen, and proud of their own growth. This is why in the Learners Lab every month we talk again and again about different social and emotional skills so that our kids are continually learning how to embrace the emotions and the big feelings that they have, process them in a way that's appropriate for others around them and the society in which we live, and to help them become the best versions of themselves. Celebration also builds their intrinsic motivation, their internal desire to keep trying and to build on what they've already learned, to keep going because they know that their efforts are valued and they know that effort is worthwhile. So they're not just fixated on the end goal. And socially, our kids start to feel better about themselves. And when kids feel good about themselves, they're more likely to take risks. They're more likely to initiate friendships. They're also more likely to problem solve with others and seek out solutions instead of just giving up. They're less likely to spiral in shame or comparison or anxiety or self-loathing. Small celebrations can create a big shift in the way a child sees themselves and the world around them. We want to make sure that we're doing it in a way that's productive and encouraging and truthful. We're not just saying, great job. We're giving them specifics. We're letting them know, wow, that was amazing that you kept pushing through even when it became tough. Just yesterday, I was at the dentist with one of my kids, and another kiddo was at home trying to get their math done. And they were struggling. And they sent me a screenshot of the screen that came up at the end that said something like, the score was not an appropriate score to grade or record. And it had some kind of error message. And this child said, I've never seen this before. And I had never seen it before either, but reading it and reading between the lines, I figured out that this kiddo just wasn't understanding the math that day. And so I said, I think it means that you're not grasping the concept. Either you're rushing or you're not doing it, you're not understanding it, or you're just not filling it in correctly. So you need to slow down, try again, or wait until I get home. And so this child admitted, no, I was rushing because I wanted to get to my other activities, the things that they wanted to do on their own. And since you weren't here, I was just trying to push through. So they took a minute, regrouped, rewatched the lesson, and then went through and got 100%. They then reached back out to me and said, because I tried and failed so many times, even though I got 100% this time, my mastery level is only showing 65%. And I said to them, that's amazing though. You recognized what you were doing wrong. It wasn't actually that you didn't understand the math concept. It was that you were rushing and being very careless in what you were submitting for it to record. And so it recorded you at a much lower level than you're actually capable of doing. We will count the 100% and you can move on because you clearly understand the work now. If I were to pop in and ask you to do that lesson again, would you be able to get 100% with confidence? And they said they would. So I celebrated that they learned from their mistakes. They weren't not understanding the math. They were not taking their time and doing the lesson in a way that allowed them to put in correct answers. And by recognizing that, slowing down, taking their time, they were able to do the lesson over again and get 100%. So I didn't need to worry about the multiple times that child got many problems wrong. I was able to step back and focus on the times that the child got the answers correct, because ultimately they really did understand the concept. Celebrating the win in that situation, the fact that they realized they just need to slow down and pay attention to the work and it will get done more quickly and more accurately, taught them that they can do it and they should do it. So they learned that it's more worthwhile to take their time and do it once correctly than to do it 6 times incorrectly to get to the one time they do it correctly. So celebrating those small wins and those big wins can shift away our kiddos see themselves and their abilities. There are also many academic benefits to celebrating wins. In the Homeschool Advantage, I talk about the importance of redefining success. Especially when you're homeschooling neurodivergent kids, it's not necessarily about finishing the textbook or getting perfect scores. It's about growth. Just like in that previous example, I celebrated my kiddo understanding that they need to take their time when it comes to things that they're turning in. Growth isn't always linear. Sometimes it's messy, sometimes it's unpredictable, but it's happening all the time. We just need to give our kids a chance to grow into whatever it is they're trying to grow into. Celebrating wins reinforces the learning process, not just the outcome. Hey there. Okay, you've heard me talk about CTC Math for a long time, and I've been sharing testimonials from other people about it, but I want to share my own right now because it's been a while since I've talked about how we're using CTC Math. CTC is an amazing sponsor. They support our work here at the podcast. They actually sponsor a lot of different homeschool businesses and magazines and events because they're so committed to making sure that the homeschool resources you have at your fingertips are available to you, that you have access to what you need when you need it. I love CTC Math for that part of who they are, but I also love CTC Math as a customer. I have been a paying customer for years and years. My kids are using it in very different ways, and this is what I want to talk about. I've talked before about its adaptability, but let's talk about this. I'm 16 years into homeschooling. This is my 16th year, and our kids are using it very differently. I've got one kiddo who's very advanced in math. That kiddo is a grade level and a half ahead, and I have their level set to mastery at 90%, meaning they have to get 90% or above to move on to the next set of math problems because that child doesn't have to speed through it. They're already a year and a half ahead. And so I want them, if they're going to continue to accelerate, I want them to accelerate with deep understanding. My other kiddo who's currently using it is right on grade level, maybe a couple lessons behind. And so that kiddo's mastery is set at 80% because I don't need that kiddo to understand every single section and get every single problem right. I need that kiddo to understand the big picture of the concepts, get at least a B's level of work done so that they can move on to the next level, because that particular kiddo is probably not going into a mathy career, but they need the basic understanding. CTC allows the flexibility to do that. If you've got a kiddo, say in late elementary school, who is absolutely brilliant in math and can skip ahead to some high school level math, your subscription includes all the way up to calculus. You don't have to wait. You don't have to buy multiple levels of programs. If you've got a kiddo who you hit a snag and you realize, oh my gosh, We missed that section when we were learning third grade math, and now we've got to go back to do it. You don't have to go out and buy a third grade math workbook. You just go to the section in the third grade math program level and have your kiddo do that. How flexible is that? You have every level from kindergarten all the way to calculus at your fingertips for a very affordable price. Check out ctcmath.com. If you go over to the show notes and you click on the link, it will give you whatever the current discount or special they're offering Raising Lifelong Learners listeners. And you can check that out and take advantage of that. I so appreciate CTC. I know you're going to love it. And if you don't, they have a money back guarantee. So you really do have nothing to lose. If you have any questions about CTC, you can always reach out to me and I'm happy to answer those questions. All right, let's get back to today's episode. So again, celebrating wins reinforces that learning process. It doesn't just let your kiddo know that you're focused on the outcome. In that example that I just gave you about the math, I was reinforcing with that kiddo that the learning process and understanding the work is more important than getting the work done. It's not about the outcome, it's about the process and the understanding. When you say, I love how you figured out that by trying something new or by slowing down, or you stuck with that even when it felt boring or annoying or hard. Good job, way to go. You're teaching your kiddo that perseverance, curiosity, and flexibility matter. You're teaching them that it's not just about what they get out of it at the end. It's about what they get out of it through the process. It's about the learning. And learning for its own sake matters big time. This approach also helps us with executive function skills, because when our kids struggle with task initiation, time management, or attention, and we focus on the process and the progress they're making, we're showing them that learning how to get started, learning how to push through and persevere, and learning how to manage their time and attention in the process to do things well and correctly is what's important. So celebrating those small completions gives our kiddos' brain a dopamine boost and builds momentum for the next challenge. This is why with neurodivergent kids in particular, I always suggest you work with small focused lessons and you break things up with brain breaks or different activities or novelty throughout the day, because every time you break it up, every time you start something new, every time they get a little win, their brain gets that dopamine hit. Their brain seeks novelty, so it feels like something new is happening, and they have more momentum and a boost to keep going or try something new. So what counts as a win? Everything. Seriously, wins just aren't test scores or completed unit studies or math problems that get finished or a math assignment to mastery. For our kids, a win might be using a calming strategy before a meltdown, writing a complete sentence without freezing up, going outside without complaining. How many of you have kiddos who just don't want to be outside? They're so busy doing the things that they're doing inside or with their coding or their Legos or whatever. It might be choosing to read a new book independently. I have kiddos who have fixated year after year on the same series of books. And so when we choose to read a new book, that's a celebration. Getting through a full homeschool day without a meltdown. This was especially hard for us when my kids were much younger, and it did feel like a huge win. Remembering to back their own backpack for co-op. We are joining a co-op for the coming school year, and it's the first time since before the pandemic that we'll have been a part of a co-op, and it should be interesting. I will only have 2 with me this time, and way back when I had 4 with me, but we're going to have to figure out how to manage our time in the morning to get there on time, because over the last several years, we haven't had to be anywhere as early as this co-op is going to require us to leave the house. And they need to make sure, my 2 that are left at home, will need to make sure that they have the things that they need, because I'm going to be focused on making sure I have the things that I need, because while they'll be taking co-op classes for the first time in 6 years, I'll be teaching co-op classes for the first time in 6 years. And so we'll all need to be responsible for ourselves. If it shows growth, whether it's emotional, social, or academic, or even in self-awareness, it counts as a win. In fact, even when our kids walk away from an argument instead of escalating it, or take out their math to do it without being asked, or Put the dishes away in the dishwasher before you have to remind them. Those all count as major wins. One of my friends was telling me about a win that they had recently, and it was just that one of their kiddos walked away from a sibling argument instead of engaging in it or escalating it like they usually do. And later, he stormed into the kitchen and dramatically flopped on the floor afterwards, which most parents and many of us at times would have counted as a loss and been frustrated by. But the win was there. They walked away from the sibling argument. Yes, they were dramatic at the end. Yes, they flopped down in exhaustion afterwards, but they didn't escalate the argument. That's amazing. He walked away from it. That's growth, and that's worth celebrating. And I celebrated with my friend because it's been a long time since siblings have walked away in that household from arguments. All right, so let's talk some super simple ways that we can celebrate wins in our homeschool. Low pressure, easy things we can incorporate into our everyday. You could create a win wall. Use a bulletin board, a whiteboard. We use sticky notes for this purpose, like giant sticky note chart paper, or you can use little sticky notes and put it on the refrigerator and put daily or weekly wins on there. You can let your kids add their own. You can put things that you've had as a win for yourself, or you can put wins that you saw your kid complete. So I could put, I finished a book, or asked for help without getting upset. I remembered to take my supplements in the morning. I got my stuff done and had enough time to sit around and read a book in the evening. Celebrate those wins and create a place to display them. You can use verbal affirmation, and you can use it frequently. Get specific with your praise. Instead of, wow, I'm so proud of you. You worked really hard today. You could say something like, wow, I am so proud of you. You kept going, and I know that math assignment was complicated, but you kept going. You worked really hard. You asked for help when you needed it, and then you got it done. That's incredible. You could say, I noticed how you took a deep breath when you were frustrated. That is amazing self-regulation. Or, wow, I noticed that you noticed that your little sister was having trouble with that word she was trying to sound out. And you just got up and you walked over and you helped her sound it out. And she was able to finish reading that page successfully. What a great big brother you are. I'm so proud of you. Be specific, because specific praise means so much more than general praise. And it shows that you're really seeing your kids. You can incorporate mini rewards, not bribes, celebrations. You could have a dance party, an extra story before bed that night, a special tea time, picking the next documentary or movie for movie night. Small gestures of you did it. We have a treasure chest in our house, and it's filled with dollar store toys or minifigure blind bags or silly putty and cars and slime and other things like that. Just very simple, not very expensive trinkets. And my kids choose from the treasure box when they finish something or have a big accomplishment. So today I had two of my kids picking from the treasure box. Both of them finished their year of PSR, which is our church's School of Religion. And so they both finished their grade level this year and finished their workbook and their quizzes last night at the last meeting of the year. And we forgot to pick from the treasure chest yesterday. So they got to do that today. And another one was working on a fellowship program throughout the school year. And the culmination of the fellowship program was creating and completing a resume and then a series of job interviews at a job fair with a job placement if they have fulfilled all of the requirements of the program. And my daughter, who was a part of that, not only got her job placement today, but she got placed in her top choice of the 14 positions that were available. And she was very excited. And so she was able to pick a second item, which was very exciting. So incorporate rewards in any way that fits your family. You can reflect together at the end of the day. Ask your kids around the dinner table or before bed, what went well today? What are you proud of? What do you want to try again tomorrow? What do you want to work on? What can I help you with? Keep the conversations going so that reflection and conversation like this becomes a natural part of your day. You can keep a victory journal. Let your child write or dictate wins, academic, emotional, behavioral, and over time, they'll start to see how far they've come because you'll have this record of the different things that they've done and the dates that they've done those. You can also include siblings in celebrations. This is a really great way to just build a culture of celebration and family connection within your home. And I've talked about it before. We celebrate each other all the time, but we want to be specific and we want to model how to cheer each other on. This helps foster a family team spirit and reminds everybody in the family that all growth matters. It's why in our house, anybody who lives here goes to see at least one show in the run anytime anybody's in a show, or goes and watches one basketball game anytime anybody's in the middle of a basketball season, or one of the dance recitals if someone's taking a dance class. It's important to cheer each other on and be there to support one another so you know you have people behind you. You can, if your kiddos struggle with executive function skills, you can use a visual progress system. You can use trackers, checklists, or even a jar of marbles or something like that for completed tasks. Putting in a marble into the jar every time you have a win. Fill it up and then do a big family celebration. This works especially well for kiddos who need a tangible marker of their success. They need to see it visually. Maybe our kiddos who struggle with ADHD or time management or task initiation and motivation, because they'll see the progress that they're making in a very visual way. I know what some of you are thinking though. If I celebrate everything, won't my kids expect praise for everything? Here's the thing. Celebration doesn't mean constant applause. It means noticing. It means turning those little celebrations into a natural part of your life. It means tuning into effort and growth and observing what your kids are going through on a daily basis and really knowing them. We're not about building egos here. We're building self-awareness. We're building resilience. We're building a sense of belonging, and we're building that team atmosphere that lets kids know that their family's got their back. When we're specific about the praise and we're specific about those wins, it doesn't feel like ego boosting. It feels genuine. It feels like a natural part of the family system, and that matters more than perfection. Your kiddo is doing big things, and so are you. Your homeschool might not look like anyone else's. That's okay. It might be messy, loud, filled with stops and starts, chaotic at times, and that's what this is all about. Homeschooling is about finding your own rhythm, what your family needs, and leaning into that. When you celebrate your kiddo's unique path and your own growth as a parent, you're creating a home where everyone feels safe to be exactly who they are. And that's the kind of homeschool that raises lifelong learners. Before we end today, I want you to think about this. I want you to think about your past week as you're listening to this and try to picture one thing that your kiddo did this week that deserves to be celebrated. And then tell them. Write them a note, give them a hug, bake cookies, do a silly dance, whatever works for you, but make it real and make it matter. Take the time to let your kiddo know that you noticed that this past week and that you are proud of them and you celebrate with them. If you want more encouragement and more ideas for how to build confidence and emotional strength in your kiddos, you can revisit Chapter 7 of The Homeschool Advantage, A Child-Focused Approach to Raising Lifelong Learners, my newest book. It's packed with ideas for connecting with your kids and making your homeschool yours, especially for your differently wired kiddos. If this episode resonated with you, I would love it if you take a second to leave a rating or a review on whatever app you use to listen to your podcasts, especially if that's Apple Podcasts, because it really boosts the show in the algorithm so other families of neurodivergent kiddos who are homeschooling them can find it. If you don't want to leave a rating or review, totally okay, but share it with a friend who you think might need the reminder that the things that go on in their homeschool is worth celebrating too. There are lots of resources about how to celebrate with your kids, along with plenty of examples and suggestions for you over on the show notes for this episode at raisinglifelonglearners.com/podcast. And you can also leave me a message, or whether through the voicemail box or the contact form, and let me know if there's an episode that you're dying to hear on the podcast, or a guest you want me to interview, or you just want to let me know what wins you're celebrating so I can celebrate with you. You've got this. I'm cheering you on every step of the way. I want to give a special thanks and shout out, as usual, to CTC Math. We're so grateful for their support. And I am just so proud that they have continued to sponsor this podcast because they're a great program and we use them. We love them. If you're looking for a math program, check it out. Until next time, keep growing, keep connecting, keep celebrating those wins. Love on your kiddos. Have a great week. I will be back same time, same place next week with another episode. I hope you have a great one. I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.